Hello and welcome. Find a comfortable place and let your thoughts drift. Like the slow, ceaseless waves of the ocean, we will journey tonight to a place of forgotten dreams and the ghosts of ambition. Far off the coast of Nagasaki, Japan, lies a small island less than half a square mile a tiny rocky outcrop in the vastness of the East China Sea. From a distance, it looks impossible, a colossal, dark, jagged silhouette, rising from the waves as if it were a sunken city or a fortress from a forgotten war. It is often called Gunkanjima, the battleship island. Its true name is Hashima. And it is a concrete skeleton of a once thriving world, a monument to human ingenuity and human tragedy. Hashima is not a natural wonder. It is a man-made mountain, a densely packed metropolis of crumbling concrete apartment blocks and industrial towers, all crammed onto a tiny sea-battered rock. It once housed thousands. Today, it holds only silence. The wind, the waves, and the cries of seabirds are its only inhabitants. This island was not always a ghost. For almost a century, it was a pulsating heart of industry, a testament to Japan's relentless drive. But how did this tiny island become a fortress of concrete and then a ruin? What ambition, what dream built it so high and then abandoned it so completely? Our story begins not with grand plans, but with black gold coal. In the early 19th century, coal was discovered beneath the seabed around Hashima. Japan, a nation rapidly industrializing, desperately needed energy. And this tiny island became a crucial part of that future. In 1887, the island's coal mines began operation. It was a dangerous, brutal life for the miners, but the demand was insatiable. By 1890, the island was purchased by Mitsubishi, the colossal industrial giant. Mitsubishi had a vision to turn this barren rock into a state-of-the-art mining colony, a self-sufficient high-tech hub for extracting the precious coal that lay beneath the waves. The early days were primitive. Wooden structures clung to the rocks. Life was harsh. But with Mitsubishi's investment, the island began to transform. To protect the mines and the growing population from the ferocious typhoons and the relentless sea, concrete sea walls were built, massive, curving fortifications that gave the island its distinctive battleship appearance. The land area of the island itself was expanded through extensive land reclamation. More concrete was poured, pushing back the sea, creating more space for the machines and for the people. This was not just about mining. It was about creating a new kind of community, a vertical city, a floating city, a city where every inch of space was precious.
By the mid-20th century, Hashima was booming. This tiny island became the most densely populated place on Earth. At its peak, in 1959, Hashima housed over 259 residents on an island less than half a square mile. That's an astonishing population density of 835 people per hectare, more than double that of Tokyo at the time. To accommodate so many people in such a small space, Hashima went vertical. The island became a concrete jungle of towering apartment blocks. 9-story, 10-story apartment buildings rose directly from the sea walls. Each building was a marvel of efficient, brutalist design, compact, functional, and designed to withstand the harsh coastal environment. These were not just miners' dorms. Hashima was a complete, self-contained community. It had a hospital, a school, a cinema, a public bath, restaurants, barber shops, and even a pachinko parlor for entertainment. Rooftops were not just roofs, they were gardens, playgrounds, and communal spaces. Children played on the concrete heights, surrounded by the vast, indifferent ocean. Life on Hashima was unique. The coal mine was the heart of the island, extending hundreds of meters deep and miles out under the seabed. The miners faced unimaginable danger and hardship, working in extreme heat and constant risk. But above ground, life was relatively comfortable. Residents enjoyed amenities that were rare in post-war Japan: running water, electricity, television sets, all available on this tiny, remote island. Wages were high. It was a place of opportunity, a symbol of Japan's post-war economic miracle. The children of Hashima had a strange and wonderful childhood. They lived on a concrete ship surrounded by the ocean. They could feel the vibrations of the mine deep below their feet. They saw the giant cranes and industrial structures that dominated their skyline. They were part of something monumental, something powerful. The island was a testament to efficiency. Everything was interconnected. Bridges, walkways, and tunnels linked the buildings. You could go from your apartment to the school, to the cinema, without ever touching the ground. A seamless, elevated existence. It was a modern utopia built on coal. But this utopia had a darker side. The story of Hashima is not just one of innovation and prosperity. It is also a story of exploitation and suffering, especially during World War II and the years leading up to it. The demand for coal became desperate. Japan was at war and its industry needed fuel to maintain production. In the brutal mine, forced laborers were brought to Hashima. Korean conscripts and Chinese prisoners of war were forced to work in the dangerous conditions. They lived in cramped quarters, received minimal rations, and faced brutal treatment. Many died from accidents, exhaustion, or disease. Their stories were often silenced for decades. It is a dark stain on the island's history, a reminder that behind the gleaming facade of prosperity, there was profound human cost. After the war, the island continued its boom, but the coal was finite, and the world was changing. The global energy landscape began to shift. Oil began to replace coal as the primary fuel source. Japan began to import cheaper coal from overseas. The mines beneath Hashima became less profitable, more difficult to extract from. Mitsubishi began to see the writing on the wall. The golden age of Hashima was drawing to a close. The population, which had once swelled, began to decline. People began to leave, seeking opportunities on the mainland. The schools had fewer children, the shops had fewer customers, the once vibrant streets grew quieter. The year is 1974, the world is grappling with the first oil crisis. And the fate of Hashima is sealed. On January 15, 1974, Mitsubishi announced the official closure of the Hashima coal mine. It was a sudden, decisive end. The residents were given only a few months to pack their belongings and leave the island forever. Imagine the final days. The once bustling apartments are slowly emptied, the echoes of children's laughter replaced by the wind. The last ship departed on April 20, 1974, carrying away the last residents, the last hopes. The island was left as it was. Most of the furniture, the televisions, the personal belongings were simply abandoned. No one had the time or the means to take everything. The doors were locked, the power was cut, and the island, which had been a symbol of life and industry, became a symbol of silence. A concrete ghost left to the mercy of the sea.
For decades, Hashima Island was completely off limits. It was deemed too dangerous for anyone to visit the concrete structures battered by typhoons, and the relentless saltwater spray began to crumble. Without human presence, nature began its slow, inexorable reclamation. Plants found purchase in the cracks of the concrete. Ivy began to climb the apartment blocks like green tentacles. The salt and the wind corroded the steel rebar within the concrete, causing it to expand and crack. The structures, walls collapsed, floors gave way, ceilings caved in. The island, which had been built so meticulously to withstand the sea, was now slowly being devoured by it. Inside the abandoned apartments, time stopped. Dust settled on dinner tables, empty bottles and rusted pots lay where they were left. Photographs of families still clung to crumbling walls, toys lay scattered on rotting floors. It was like a time capsule, a snapshot of ordinary lives suddenly frozen in time. The school classrooms still held their desks and blackboards. Textbooks lay open on the floor. The hospital beds stood empty in the decaying wards. Every abandoned building told a silent story, a whisper of the life that once pulsed within its walls. The sea itself became a part of the decay. Salt water seeped into the lower levels of the buildings, hastening their demise. The constant sound of the waves crashing against the sea walls became the island's only song, a mournful rhythmic dirge. Hashima became a haunted place, whispered about a forbidden spectacle. It captivated the imagination. The imagery of a deserted concrete city rising from the ocean was powerful. It inspired art and literature and even popular culture. It was featured as a setting in video games and films. Most notably, it served as the lair of the villain Raul Silva in the James Bond film, Skyfall. Its appearance in such a major film brought Hashima to global attention. And with that came a new kind of visitor. Before the film Skyfall, Hashima was known primarily to urban explorers, photographers, and those interested in Heikyo in Japan. They would attempt to land on the island illegally, to explore its dangerous, crumbling labyrinth, to capture its eerie beauty. They risk arrest, injury, and even death in pursuit of this unique experience. But after Skyfall, the world wanted in. The Japanese government began to reconsider its policy of completely banning access. In 2009, after years of debate, parts of Hashima Island were reopened to tourists.
However, access is strictly limited and highly controlled. Visitors can only land at a specially constructed pier. They must follow a designated safe walkway, and they can only visit a small, pre-approved section of the island. The majority of the island remains too dangerous for human access. The buildings are too unstable. Despite the restrictions, the tours are immensely popular. Thousands flock to Hashima every year. They come not only to see a movie set, but to witness history, to feel the weight of silence in a place that was once so loud. Hashima's story, however, remains controversial. The issue of forced labor during World War II continues to be a point of contention. For many Koreans and Chinese, Hashima is not just a ruin, it is a painful reminder of a dark chapter in history, a place of suffering and injustice. In 2015, Hashima Island, along with other sites of Japan's Meiji Industrial Revolution, was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This designation brought with it both recognition and renewed scrutiny. Part of the UNESCO agreement required Japan to acknowledge the existence of forced labor at these sites during the war. This led to further debate and differing interpretations of history. For some, Hashima is a symbol of Japan's resilience and industrial prowess. For others, it is a symbol of exploitation and a past that must not be forgotten. It is a concrete monument to a complex truth, a truth that echoes in the winds that sweep across its empty buildings.
Today, Hashima Island stands as a global icon of abandonment. It is a powerful, visual metaphor for the rise and fall of industrial society, for the transient nature of human endeavor. The relentless march of progress, which built it so rapidly, also abandoned it just as quickly. The island continues to decay. The sea walls, constantly pounded by waves, slowly erode the buildings, slowly crumble. Conservation efforts are complex and incredibly challenging. To preserve Hashima as it is would require massive investment and innovative engineering to stabilize structures that were never meant to stand empty for so long. To demolish it would be to erase a unique and controversial piece of history. And so, Hashima, like Buzluja, exists in a state of limbo. It is a monument to a future that arrived and then departed. It is a testament to human ambition and its limits. It is a canvas on which nature paints its slow, powerful masterpiece of reclamation. And for those who visit, or who simply gaze upon its image, it is a reminder. A reminder that even the most bustling, the most vibrant, the most densely packed places can one day fall silent. They can become ghosts in the waves. It is a place to contemplate the past and the present and the fleeting nature of all things. Let the images of this ghost battleship drift through your mind. Let the sound of the ocean lull you. And know that even in the silence, there are stories waiting to be heard. Good night.